All right. As I journal, I find this to be kind of therapeutic for me. Um, but I also want people to understand what I went through. This topic is a little bit on the emotional side for me because Jonathan, who's my father, is something I would not talk about. Um, I wouldn't give any energy to, and this will be my last time that I give energy to this man. Um, so as I wrote this, I'm going to read this. The title of this video is called "A Dad is a Friend, a Father is a Teacher." It's even hard to kind of say those words. Shit, we're already doing this. Um, those were things he would say. So here we go. Um, Jonathan, even though we had our differences and our different viewpoints, I do thank him for his teachings of Islam and life lessons. He stated from the beginning that he was not a dad, that he was a father. A father. Damn it. Um, Sorry about that. He said that a dad is a friend. Mm, come on, I'm just starting this video, man. Um, he said that a dad is a friend, a father is a teacher. Um, Eventually, I was told to just call him Jonathan. And in the past, as a kid, I would always say, "I love you. I love you, Dad. I love you, Dad. Te amo mucho. Te amo." Yeah. And one day he said, "Tú eres Joto." I didn't know what that meant. The word Joto, I didn't know what that meant. Um, yeah, I didn't know what that meant. So he said, "Are you gay?" I said, "You like boys?" I said, "No." Uh, he said, "Because a man doesn't say that to another man. You don't say those things. For men, you don't say 'I love you' to another man." That's what he said. Um, so I said, "Okay." So that later stopped. I no longer did that. Behind closed doors, Jonathan was. This is outside of this. Behind closed doors, Jonathan was different. In front of people, it was like a show. He was an actor. He did a little acting here and there in the past, but he was one way in front of people, and then behind closed doors, we were different. He was different. Nothing. Nothing crazy bad, but he was different. Um, Being Afro Latino, he just being. I don't know much about his background. I don't know much about his family, honestly. So I don't know much about his family, and as far as him raising me, the time that he had me, I don't know much about it and why he was raising me the way that he did. But it is what it is. Now, don't get me wrong. We had some good times, but much behind closed doors, we did have some bad times as well. One of my favorite things we used to do is we used to walk the streets together, and we would talk. That was my favorite, man. We would talk about life, and I would just listen, and he would talk to me. The biggest thing that I wish, the biggest thing that I wish when we were walking is that we would hold hands. Me and my mom always did that. Um, Even as an adult and her being older, we would still hold hands. I wish that we did that, but we didn't. So, okay. I would always remember him. We would speak Spanish in the house, and we would pray in Islam and Arabic language. Um, and he would always sit in the dark drinking coffee or tea or smoking weed or a cigar or cigarettes or something. He smoked so much to the points the walls were yellow. You would move a photo and it would be the white part of the wall, but everything was yellow because he smoked so much. Anyway, every time that I came from school, I was prompted to always study, and he was big on academics. He was really big on academics, but a lot of people didn't know how he was behind closed doors, and I really emphasize that because you don't know how people are behind closed doors. He had a side hustle going. He would sell pills and buy some weed or selling some weed or whatever the hell was going on. But anyway, um, the only thing I really hated about him is that he would talk crap about people who was helping him. And the moment that he would close that door, he would talk crap about him. I always thought it was funny to me though, because how could you talk crap about the people that you need help from? That was Jonathan. As I got older, me and Jonathan grew distant and we grew different. He would say stuff like, "I don't think you're my son. Your mother was a whore." And um, these things, because for me, it was I was a child. You don't say that to a child. It wasn't like I was 16, 17. I wasn't there. I was still a child. I was just getting older, probably 12, I think. And it's funny you called her a whore, but you had no problem getting her drunk to go ahead and have sex with her. So, he it is what it is. These things were because I missed my mother, and I would always ask about my mother. I would always wish to be around her because I was taken away from her when I went from Child Haven over to Jonathan. So I'd missed my mother, and it took me a minute to start verbalizing those things. Anyway, he later opened up a briefcase with the info on what was going on with my mother and what she went to jail for. He said, "Your mom was a junkie," which was true. She wasn't a junkie, but she did, it's not like she was poking needles and scratching and sitting in the corner somewhere. It was, when she went to jail, she did have, I believe it was crack cocaine in her system. And I knew she was doing that because I was around at the time. They would veer off and go do a little something and come back. So I always knew what was going on. I wasn't stupid. Very smart child. Anyway, so he took the papers, he threw them at me, and he made me read everything to him. And I would never forget that because I hated him for that. My hatred for Jonathan grew and grew. I remember either I wished I was dead, and I would always wish I was dead, or if I didn't wish I was dead, I wished he was dead. And Jonathan had once said to me a lot that I was not his son. And so one day he had me clean the dishes. And I said, "Well, since I'm not your son, why don't one side of the dishes we put Carter and the other side we'll put someone? Since I'm not your son, I'll do that." He was mad. He was definitely mad. He said, but I didn't care. I knew where I stood with him. After that, we had tensions growing. Sometime after grandmother, which I really didn't know, but I remember having fond memories of him. He would always say things like, "You have the head of many peanuts," and they would always call me Peanut Head. And I remember that one saying from him. God, I remember that, but I don't really remember much about him. He said, "You don't know them people. So, no, tú no sabes otro, tú no sabes otro antes. Otro familia, tú no sabes nada. Tú no quieres nada." So, okay. I said, "I want to go, Yeah, you don't want nothing. You don't know them people." So, my uncle Richard, I did miss his funeral. I was forbidden to go. My mother had passed. My mother's mother had passed away, who was my grandmother. She passed away, and I was really hell bent on going because I knew it wasn't about, in all honesty, it wasn't about my grandmother because I didn't know her. It was about being able to see my mother. I knew that she would be there, and so did Jonathan as well. The family on my mother's side had argued with Jonathan and was able to get him to get me to go. So I was able to go. I have no idea what they said, but I was able to go. But I had no heartfelt connection to my grandmother because I didn't know her. But I was more concerned about seeing my mother. With that being said, I don't remember exactly how I got this picture of my mother, but I know it was given to me by my aunt. That photo up under my pillow. I would give that photo a kiss. I think it was my mom sitting on the side of the bed, sitting on the side of the bed or something. It's the only photo that I had of her. I remember that, and I was so proud to have that photo. Eventually, Jonathan did find it, and he destroyed it. Yo no quiero tu foto de tu mamá en mi casa. Es mi casa. No quiero tu foto de tu mamá. Tu pinche, no la puta. No quiero. Okay. No más. So he rips it up. Again, it's behind closed doors. Okay. At this point, we were now enemies. I no longer had any conversation with him. I completely had shut down at this point. I would never argue with him. I would come home, do what needs to be done, go to my room, have my game. He would ask me if I was hungry. He would say little things here and there. I'd answer to it, but never really fully had a conversation with him. As I was in the back room, he'd be in the front and listen to his jazz, do whatever it was that he was doing. George Benson, I believe, is something that he really liked a lot. The Masquerade album. Fast forward, he was getting sick, but he never said anything, and it was getting worse. Sometime later on down the road, we went to the veterans doctor at the Veterans Memorial Center. They pulled him in and told me to wait outside. At this point, I knew. I knew that he was dying, and he knew too. Later down the road, I began communicating again. Later, was told lies and stories with my mom about reuniting. At this point, I'm talking to her, and she had me praying every night with her on the phone and believing that if God had brought us together, that she was going to clean up our act and we were going to have this great life and all this other stuff. Lies. I got back, and I was home as soon as I got off the Greyhound. So, um, Jonathan gave me a choice. It was either living with my aunt, which was his sister, or living with my mother. I chose to live with my mother. I would later learn that was not that that was a bad choice. Sorry, that was a bad choice. Jonathan and I fought in the days leading up to me leaving for the Greyhound. It was over me going to church. My neighbors had invited me to go to church with them, and I had asked him, quiero ir a la iglesia porque de vecinos invitan a mí para ir a la iglesia. Dice, mi papá dice, okay, that's good, pero te quieres ir a la iglesia con tus vecinos, tú necesitas limpiar la casa. Okay, primero, okay, está bien. So what he did was he decided to make the house worse than what it was. So he made the house worse than what it was, and his thought frame was, by the time I start cleaning up the house, I would be too late, and then I couldn't go. And I figured he would do that because Jonathan was spiteful. So I got up really early in the morning. Oh, I think it might have been 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I mopped the floors, I cleaned the walls. They were white again. I did the dishes, I swept the floor, I did everything, and I was preparing to get ready to go to church. My dad woke up. Jonathan woke up, sorry. And Jonathan woke up, and at this point, he's hot because he had looked at everything and there was nothing that he could say because the walls were now white. The floor was mopped and swept, and the dishes were done. There was nothing, clothes were folded, nothing that I had to do. So he said to me, he said, so you want to go eat with those pig eating motherfuckers? That's what he said. You want to go eat. And it wasn't about eating. He said, really what he was saying was, you want to go to church with those pig eating motherfuckers, is what he said. It's exactly what he said. I said, well, we had an agreement. And right then and there, he punched me. Not in the face. He threw a jab, but I knew he was sick, and I knew he was dying. So, in my mind at that split second, before I continue this, in my mind at that split second, the beating in which I wanted to give Jonathan was a beating in my mind at that split second. I knew what I could do. I was stronger than him. I knew exactly and I could fight, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I had so much anger pent up. I knew what I wanted to do, but I did not do it. I pushed him, and he fell to the floor. I tried to leave. He reached out and grabbed my muscle t-shirt, the strap of my muscle t-shirt. I held his wrist outside the door, and I kept slamming I think maybe 3 or 4 times. I kept slamming the screen door, the metal screen door on his wrist. And I remember hearing him yell in agony because it hurt. And I let him go, and I left. I went to a friend of mine's house, and I was staying there, but I had to go back to go and get the stuff from my father's house. Again, this is leading up to me going to the Greyhound bus station. Whatever went on, he said all I tried to do was be a good father, and I thought that was a crock of bullshit because, I did nothing to you. It was about going to church. You could easily let me go to church. So I told myself that's all bullcrap, at the end of the day. And he tried to play this little sob story that wasn't working with me. I can't remember exactly what happened, but he ended up taking me to the Greyhound bus station. My heart, I didn't talk to him the entire time we got to the Greyhound bus station. As I was preparing to leave, he said his last goodbye. At that time, I really didn't care anymore. That would be the last time that I would have seen him alive. His eyes looked at me, and as I looked at him in his eyes, he knew that was going to be the last time he saw me, and as well as I knew it too. Jonathan did what he could. As I get older, Jonathan did what he could to raise me. I think as I got to his funeral, the part that made me the most with Jonathan was I already came from a broken home. I didn't have anything. And the time that I had with you, you could have told me how you really felt. You could have told me all of those times. I remember doing a Michael Jackson concert at school, and he didn't even show up because he said I'm not a stage dad, and that's okay. All of the things that I had accomplished, and we later hung up, but at that time when you could have gave me the praise of I'm proud of you, son, I'm proud of this, you didn't do that. So my time that I was out doing I felt he wasn't proud of me. I felt he didn't give a fuck. It took that man to die. It took him to die for other people to tell me how truly proud he was of me. How truly proud he was of me. And I take that with me a lot. And it's hard because my mother now, she does that too. She's too cool to tell me. Too cool to tell me. And it took Jonathan to die for me to know how much he really cared. And that sucks. With Jonathan, there was one thing he had always said to me, and that thing was, when I die, you don't bring me up because old emotions come with old stories. There's no reason to bring me up because I'm not there anymore. I won't be here. So I've always remembered that. Jonathan was somebody I would not talk about. Right now, at 32, I have an issue with family. I have an issue with that, and it's definitely hard to be in certain situations or be invited to certain situations regarding a family gatherness or togetherness, and I'm not too fond of that, so I don't really. I kind of pull away, but that was Jonathan, and that's how he was. And there were so many more, but this video is already 20 minutes long. Um, but I thank him for what he did, for the teaching. I just wish that somebody could have loved me, and I wanted the love to come from my parents. I didn't get that, and I compensate for that now as an adult. Um, not getting the true love that I wanted from both my mother and my father. So that was Jonathan for you. I'll see you guys in the next episode.